Hey guys, welcome back. I am Jason. The day hiker, the trail runner, is oftentimes the most vulnerable because they're not planning on spending the night out, and a series of unfortunate events can lead to disaster. The weather could change. It's 50 degrees right now, but tonight it's going to be in the 20s. I could slip, I could fall trying to cross this icy river, I could break my leg, and I could be stranded. Let's say it's 4 miles in and 4 miles back, and I think, no problem, I'm a fit guy, I'll make that happen, and all I've got is my trusty water bottle with me. But suddenly, I slip, I fall, I'm really injured, and I'm incapable of getting out, and maybe I'm the last one on the trail, and there's no help coming for me. If I was gonna cross this stream, the smart thing to do in the wintertime would be to take off my boots, roll up my pant legs, or even if it's deep enough, take off my pants, and get across this thing and stay dry and get dressed on the other side. The less smart thing to do, but maybe the more tempting thing to do because it might be cold outside, is to go hippity-hoppity across the rocks with keeping all your clothing and your boots on and trying to stay dry. But these rocks are slick, they're icy, they're covered in wet, slippery moss and algae, and that is what can get you in trouble. And you can slip and fall, injuring yourself and getting soaking wet at the same time. I can slip on these leaves, get my foot jammed in this hole, and then my forward momentum carries me through, and my leg can get snapped so easily that could happen. And then suddenly I'm stuck. Number one, I would suggest that you don't go trail running by yourself. Always find a buddy. But I understand that the world is full of lazy wimps, and it's sometimes difficult to get somebody to go do these things with you if that's what you're into, and you're gonna go solo, and that's just the way it's gonna be. I do the same thing. Always tell somebody where you're going. Always tell somebody which trail you're hiking on. If you're planning on going off the trail at all, let somebody know what that is, where you're gonna go off trail, if you could predict that at all. And then that way they can know where you're going and then what time you're supposed to be back. If they don't see you back by that evening or whatever time you're telling them you're gonna be back, they can notify the authorities or they can come get you. Dressing appropriately is a big one. And depending on the situation, depending on the activity that you're doing, if you're hunting, hiking, trail running, whatever it is, just make sure that you're as prepared as possible, within reason, obviously. If you're out trail running, and let's say I'm doing a 4-mile run in and a 4-mile run out, which is reasonable for a lot of fit individuals, make sure you've got at least a dry layer to put on. Obviously, you're not going to want to wear that while you're running because you're going to be sweating, and preventing overheating where you sweat through your clothes is a big deal. But if you're actively exercising, you're going to be sweating, and whatever that layer is, the base layers I prefer is wool. That wool layer hopefully is what you're wearing. Might get wet, but it dries really quickly, and it still insulates even when it's wet. So I would recommend a base layer of wool. If you're out trail running, tie something around your waist, carry a small Camelback backpack with an extra dry layer in it, some sort of rain gear, something like that would be appropriate. Just make sure you're dressed appropriately. Know what the weather conditions are going to be when you're going in, and more importantly, know what they're going to be when you're, if you were to have to spend the night out. I think if you're going on a trail, especially in the wintertime, in a remote area such as this one, you need to absolutely have some way to start a fire. I think that is a no-brainer, without question. There's no argument there. You need to have a way to start a fire. My preferred means of starting a fire is a Bic lighter and an Exotech fire sleeve. I think that's the way to go. At absolute minimum, have something like this spark necklace from Wazoo Gear. It's not the easiest way to start a fire because it's such a small ferro rod, but it's something that I can have on me all the time, 24/7, and I always have a way to start a fire. And combine that with some fire plugs or just some really good quality natural tinder, and you've got yourself a fire. You're always going to have to weigh out your options in any situation where something has gone wrong. Let's say I've rolled my ankle and I've sprained it. I don't think it's broken, but it's sprained and it's painful. The best thing to do, usually in my experience in that situation, is to keep moving. Don't stop. If you stop, put that foot up, that's when it's going to get really bad. That's when it's going to get, once you stop, you're done. It's going to get really painful after that point. But if you keep moving, it'll swell up, and keep your boot on, don't take it off, and just keep on trucking. You can usually get your way out as long as it's not too far. As soon as you stop, that's when you're stuck. But if you've broken your leg severely, or something, injury to your back, or whacked your head on a rock or something like that, and you're immobile, and you've decided at this point, now I'm stuck here, there's nobody coming, I've got no cell phone service, I've got no way to contact anybody, I'm going to be spending the night here. What do I do? Where would I want to make my camp, right? assuming I've got the means to do any sort of camp at all and not just lay there and be miserable. Where would I want to make my camp? It'd be tempting to do it right here on the trail because I'm going to be more likely to be seen when the morning comes up and that first trail hiker comes along. Hopefully they'll find me right here on the trail being all miserable and whiny. But with that said, this low valley here, right here by this frozen river, is going to be freezing cold. And if I am not dressed appropriately, I don't have sleeping bags, warming layers of that sort, I'm going to be miserable. So really, in this situation, if I was stuck here and I was at least somewhat capable of moving, crawling my way up, I would try to get myself up this hill here just a little ways. I might crawl my way up this little valley and get up to a spot just above, just a little higher, because it's going to be significantly warmer. I'd say 10 plus degrees warmer about 100, 200 feet up that hill as it will be right here. There's going to be like an invisible wall. If you were to look at it on thermal in the morning, you'd see this cloud of coldness down here in the very bottom, this sump. And up there is going to be significantly warmer. And that could be all the difference between you getting hypothermia and not. I would gather myself a bunch of dead, dry leaves and form myself a pile of leaves that I could sit on and not be cold. I could be insulated from the ground at least. And if I've got the means to start a fire, I would try to crawl up to something big, dead, fallen like that big log up there. Something that I could easily gather some firewood and to get myself a small fire going and to keep myself a little bit warmer. The problem with hypothermia and what gets people in trouble is that it makes you very lethargic. That's the dangerous thing. You get to a situation where you're injured, you're laying there, you're feeling sorry for yourself, you start shivering. If you can get a fire going, great. If you can't, that's even worse. But if you can get a fire going, great. Even then, though, you've got to be careful, because what the hypothermia does to you is it makes you want to just sit there and go to sleep. It's very calming, very relaxing. It's really not a painful way to go. But that's the dangerous thing. It just makes you want to lay down, curl up in a ball, and take a nap. And then eventually you stop shivering, and that's when you're past the point of no return for a lot of situations. So you've got to have the mental fortitude, the willpower to keep pushing on and understand when you're in trouble. You've got to know when you're past that point of like, oh, I'm just a little uncomfortable and cold, or I'm dangerously cold and I have to do something now, or this could be the end of me. Let's say I was stupid enough to not bring some sort of fire starter with me. Now I'm forced to do physical activity to maintain my body heat all night long. If you're physically fit, that's going to be much, much easier. You're much less likely to get injured in the first place if you're physically fit. But with that said, if I'm not physically fit and I can't generate movement to generate warmth all night long, I'm going to be in a bad position. So I would be doing everything. If I've got an injury to my lower body, it's going to be extremely painful, obviously, but I'm going to be trying to do a single leg push-ups, doing a set till I can't do anymore, generating warmth that way. I'll roll over, keeping my injured leg from hurting too badly. I'll be doing my sit-ups all night long. I'll be doing flutter kicks, whatever I can possibly do, whatever creative nonsense I can think of to keep moving my body, to stay warm all night long. And having that drive to keep myself warm all night long is so important. Isometrics is something that's really, really helpful to do as well if you're in this situation. I can generate warmth without having to move because I'm injured and it hurts too bad to move. I can generate warmth just by flexing the muscles that aren't too injured. I can flex all the muscles of my body and hold it for like a 10 count and then relax. And I can flex all the muscles in my body and hold it for a 10 count or a 5 count, whatever, and relax. And just continue to do that repetitively over and over and over again just to get myself warm, because that's how shivering works. Shivering is involuntary muscle contractions because your body is saying, you're too cold, dude, start moving, right? And it makes you move. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and if you haven't done so already, leave lots of comments, ask lots of questions. Tell me what you think about this video, and I can't wait to see you on the next one.